This
Let us
conference will now be recorded.
call this meeting to order. And we start, according to my little sheet here, the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand and join with me in the pledge. We have a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which is found one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You?
Good
Jeff,
morning, everyone. Hello.
Yes,
Let's do the
Jeff.
roll call, shall we?
Perfect, thank
Director Duncan.
Here.
Hi, Dave. Director Johnson.
Here.
Diane. Director Rosenboom.
Here.
Howdy, Paul. Vice President Baker.
I'm here.
And I do believe Kathy is off doing her civic duty today.
Great.
That has now become 4 or 5 days of sitting at the polls, not just one. Yeah. We've been open for a while, so yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Yep.
All right. Next is the approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Diane and Paul. Jeff, you feel like calling the roll for the votes?
I'm sure I would love to do that. Director Duncan.
Right.
Oh,
Here.
oh, yeah, I'm good. Director Johnson. Yeah.
Oh, here. Aye. Something.
Aye. Director Rosenboom.
Aye.
And Vice President Baker.
Aye. We have an agenda.
That's unanimous.
Mr. Poole, have there been any comments for the public and requests for future agenda items?
I guess technically not on this one. I have the correspondence, yes, but so I guess the answer right now is no. But a yes later.
Okay. Do we have any comments from our directors here? Looking at my screen, nobody's jumping forward, so no. Okay, Mr. Poole, have you received correspondence from the public?
As a matter of fact, Madam Vice President, we did. The sponsor group submitted a letter that's in the packet pertaining to the de minimis well application. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the meeting where this was discussed. Maybe Diane or Tammy or both of you were there. But I think, basically John Peterson's part of that group, Rebecca Falk, who, both, are involved, have been involved in water issues for a long time out here, especially John. So John had some concerns from the technical perspective about the potential impacts, and Becky with her connections with the sponsor group and their connection to the county. And so the sponsor group put together the letter that's in the packet. And so their plan is to send this off.
I do have something to add, which is that Becky has also sent it to various people within the planning and development department at the county, wanting to, make sure the county knows that we have this concern. At people in different departments than Jim Bennett, someone in a new group called Sustainable Land Use Framework, and someone else, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we certainly appreciate support for our concern, shared concern for our ratepayers. So let's move on to section number 2, items for board consideration. A is the consent calendar. Do we have, Mr. Poole, anything to present on that?
Let's see, what was on that agenda? I think 2 sets of minutes, right? Oh, no, there's nothing on there today, right? I just don't have the consent calendar.
Oh, it's the virtual meetings agreement for virtual meetings.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Sorry. That's normally on the second one, so that's why I was a little oopsie. It's normally on the second agenda each packet, but there it is.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Thank you, Diane.
I think Paul sneezed was a second.
Fortunately, I was muted for that, but yes,
Pathetic. Second.
yes, I'll take the sneeze as a second as well.
Okay. All right, Jeff, I'm just in the mood to have you call the roll, but I'm happy to do it if
Yeah,
you don't want to.
sure, I would love to. Director Duncan.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Rosenboom.
Aye.
And Vice President Baker.
Aye.
That would be
Moving
unanimous.
forward. Yes, to B, recording and retention of BWD board meetings. Jeff, is this
Yes,
you or
Madam
Jessica?
President, I'll do a brief intro of why I think this is on the agenda. Here's what was it? Part of our letter writing, I forget what the impetus was, but we expressed some concern. Oh, it was the process, I think, for the annual report or something. Or maybe, no, it was the de minimis well issue. We suggested the BWD comment letter included a suggestion that the water master record their meetings and keep the recordings available for public review following the meeting, with the primary purpose being just for those that did not get a chance to attend, they could hear the meeting from start to finish. Obviously, minutes are great, but with minutes, you miss a lot of the comments and discussion in between. So just thinking this through, that part of our comment letter was to request the water master, A, record, which we do, but then B, keep the recordings public and available to the public for a certain period of time. We're not doing that. So I thought, well, gee, if we're going to suggest the water master do it, we should probably do it ourselves. So I asked Jessica, and actually we had a discussion amongst the board members, and I asked Jessica to take the lead on this. So she did the research and has come up with the changes that are needed and has everything there in the packet for the board. So Jessica, take it away.
Good morning. I apologize. I'm joining on the phone today. So yeah, it's pretty simple. There wasn't really much to discover. First of all, I guess the question is to the board. Should we post our recorded virtual meetings on our website? If so, should we do it indefinitely or just until the meeting minutes come out? That's the first question. So I don't know if the board wants to have any discussion on that one or if it's a no-brainer to you all.
So my memory serves, Jessica, we discussed retention and we said 3 months, and I see you've got 120 days.
Yes.
So we could talk a little bit about that. I personally think 120 days is the right answer, but we did discuss that earlier and the board had said they thought it was 3 months, the retention of these.
Yes. So we did pull out our existing records retention policy. I know there's a lot of information there that's not really pertaining to this particular agenda item, but if you look on page 20 of the agenda packet, our retention policy already had a board meeting recordings item, but it did not encompass our new technology with virtual recordings. It was just audio tapes and CDs. So that's, I just kind of tagged it in there. We can also change the amount of days at the board's pleasure. I guess it just depends on how you want to go.
Directors, do you have any questions or comments? And then I'll ask for public. Looking quiet here. I looked at the 120 days. Oh, okay, go ahead, Diane.
So 120 sounds okay to me.
I sort of spaced out, like when we do a meeting, when the minutes get approved, assume that there's some mistake in the minutes that need to be corrected, and then those minutes get posted. And I got up to the 4 months. So I think the 120 days is, since that's our backdrop until minutes are available, that's better than the 90 days, 3 months.
You know, all those times seemed reasonable to me as well when I read them over.
So I have a question. Oh, it's page 15, which is, does availability of our recorded meetings require this record retention request? Which doesn't make sense if we just posted on our website. We wouldn't know who was accessing them.
Right. I think it's kind of twofold. You know, I think whether we post it on our website or not, I don't know whether that's necessarily a policy change. So I was just kind of presenting it almost as two separate items. Yeah.
Steve, do you have an opinion here?
Sure. I think the Public Record Act request form is standard for public agencies because this records retention policy applies to a lot of different records, not just the videos that might be on the website. And so that's a form that applies across the board for anybody who wants any of the other things that aren't just automatically posted on the website. So does that make sense? There's a reason for that form beyond the video.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no conflict that if I want, as a public, want to watch the video, I don't have to fill out a request. That's fine.
No, because it's on your website, they can just go click on it. They don't have to do this.
Okay.
But this captures all the other documents that they might want to have access to.
Got it.
Yeah, right. I think that falls into the category of not all issues in the attachment totally applied to the recording and the retention and the presentation of the minutes. That's our record retention policy in total. So yeah, it covers everything, all things related to records retention, of which a very important part is this public records, the FOIA stuff that we hear about, Freedom of Information Act on the federal level. But yeah, if anybody makes a request for information, there's a specific timeline that we have to follow to provide the information and how much we charge, that kind of stuff. So, and I do believe we need to review the entire policy. I think we kind of started that. I think when we started the discussion about the minutes retention and to get into, what was it, electronic storing of data and how long we retain electronically stored files. So we might be revisiting the entire policy, the other pages of it. So you might see it again in the future, but what we're talking about here is just the minutes. Do we record them? And then how long do we hold them?
Got it. Directors seem quiet, so let me open this up to the public. Any of you in the public, do you have comments? Okay, hearing a resounding nothing. I'm looking for a motion to approve this change to our, what's this called? Record retention?
Policy.
Anyone feel like moving it?
I'll move it. I was letting someone else have the honor.
All right, I'll second.
All right, thank you, Diane and Paul. Okay, Jeff, go call that roll.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Duncan. Duncan.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Rosenboom.
Aye.
Vice President Baker.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Another controversial thing passed. All right, let us move on to number 2C, Town Hall 2022 overview. Will you start again, Jeff?
Sounds crazy to say it. Town Hall 2022 is already here. What, 1 week from today, as a matter of fact. Okay, so let's see. At the last board meeting, I presented the agenda. We talked about the general topics of discussion. And so now we're getting down to the point of it's time to really start putting together the presentations, which I kind of started in the last day or so. Intended to have something in draft form to look at today, but I started feeling rushed near the end. So I'll have that ready for board review and comment individually amongst you all following the meeting today. But what I'd like to do is to update the board on kind of where we are. There's been won't say a couple changes, but I'd like to show a couple recommendations I have for the agenda. And then share some communications that I have sent to the various participants. Esmeralda, do you happen to have that Word document handy? Perfecto, thank you very much. Okay, so what I'd like to share with y'all first is the agenda. Here's the action item portion of the agenda. Once again, this will be a special board meeting, so I just cut and pasted out the action item section. We'll still have all the introductory stuff and all the closing stuff at the end of the agenda, but this is just the action portion. So the highlighted yellow highlights are the two changes, and one's actually an addition, a very happy addition to the packet that I think will be ready by then. We'll see. But anyway, let's get to it. So the top one pertains to air quality. Diane has graciously volunteered to introduce the item and introduce Seco Rude. And then initially I had that item at the bottom of the agenda, so I figured let's move it to the top and we'll consider it part of BWD priorities for next year, since it's a program that will be funded with BWD funding and some BVEF funding for the next 3 years. So definitely air quality monitoring falls under the BWD priorities for next year. So instead of leaving it at the end after the water master discussion, I figured let's kind of get that out of the way earlier in the agenda. So I'm proposing that we move it up and make it part of the BWD package. And then after the water master is done, then we could go right into Q&A. That I think would flow much better. So thank you, Diane, for volunteering. Diane's going to introduce Seco, kind of explain why air quality is important to the basin. And then let Seco talk about, and Seco Rude is UCI employee. He works at the Steel Burnett Research Center here in Borrego Springs. So Seco will talk about kind of the past, current, and future. Let everyone know that we have been collecting data for a while, share as much as he wants of that, and then let the public know that the district is planning to fund the program for the next 3 years and what that would include. So that would be kind of recommendation number one in terms of kind of changes to the agenda. It's just a reshuffling of the items and trying to make it a little bit more cohesive. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And then the good news is at the bottom. And this might steal some of my thunder from my staff report at the end on the Prop 68, but gee, when was it? Late Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, is when I heard Chris Martinez, right? That, hey, great news. Chris Martinez is our grant advisor for the Prop 68 program. He said, hey, great news. He heard from DWR Legal that the last version of the grant agreement that Chris submitted to DWR Legal was approved. Chris was given the authority to make some changes that Chris needed to make that would not require going back to DWR Legal. So all indications are that, well, I think Chris said in the email, either Monday or Tuesday. So either yesterday or today, we will be receiving the BWD DWR, I lovingly call it the final grant agreement. So we're waiting for that. Steve is anxiously awaiting that. He and his crew will do the final review of that, determine if any changes are needed to the sub-grantee agreements. We just want to make sure that we are totally covered and that everything BWD is committing to do in the final grant agreement is covered in these sub-grantee agreements. So Steve and his crew will do that work. And the plan would be to have the final version of the DWR agreement and sub-grantee agreements ready, or at least the DWR agreement. We might not have all the sub-grantee agreements done yet, but the goal will be to have everything ready for board approval 1 week and 6 hours from now. So at the end of the town hall festivities, I just would like to have one action item, and that action item would be the approval of the Prop 68 agreement, so we can get that little rascal signed and actually start officially. Tammy, Jessica, David Dale, Alan, Roy, Dudek have all been working on our projects that are part of Prop 68 for a while. So we haven't been waiting. We're ready to go. But the other sub-grantees will be very excited. The official starting gun can be fired here, hopefully, at the meeting on the 15th with approval of the BWD agreements at that town hall. So how does that look in terms of those 2 yellow highlights or anything else on the agenda. In terms of the nitty gritty, I'm still talking about going through a fairly detailed list of what we accomplished last year, going through past board packets for the last year and seeing what we accomplished, and then kind of doing the same thing. We've obviously have had a few meetings already in this current fiscal year. We've accomplished a couple things, and then Tammy will talk about kind of next year's priorities. So we're still planning that routine. And then Diane, as I mentioned, to share the stage with SECO to talk about air quality. That look good?
So
Okay, excellent. And then those of you that are making presentations, you'll be hearing from me this afternoon about details, and Diane swatting flies in the background. You'll hear from me about details, and I'll start sharing your presentations with you as soon as possible. So I'll take a breath, a sip of coffee. Go ahead, Diane.
something just occurred to me, Jeff, that it'll only take a minute at the meeting, but we should do it. Is if we're going to talk about Prop 68, all of the sub projects, including ours, have money for outreach and engagement, and we should alert, including for the advanced metering. So we should probably mention at the town hall that we'll be getting in touch with people to teach them about the program, I guess, is how we'll start out. Right?
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, that will be part of it. There's a few more steps that we need to, some hurdles and steps that we need to follow to get to that point. We need to finish the request for proposal for the bid documents and bid out the project and do a pilot and select a permanent vendor. And eventually, yes, we will definitely get to the outreach needed to train the public, but I think there'll even be some outreach needs for maybe some questions of the public as we shape the program. I'm not quite sure what that means yet, but there's probably some outreach that's needed before, hey, we have this new program, here's how it works. There's probably something before that.
Right,
So
right.
I think that's a great topic for our committee, our AMI committee, to talk that through. But yes, that will be part of the entire next steps needed for the AMI and for the monitoring well. All of our Prop 68 projects will be part of I guess that would be Tammy's presentation. So excellent idea, and I'll make sure that's in there.
Thanks.
Okay, so moving on to the next. Oh, sorry.
And I'm happy to see that all the directors have a speaking part. I'm assuming Dave will speak in the water master part, but it's good to have all the directors say something.
Yeah, I think it worked out perfectly. And yeah, everyone's, Paul can talk about all the past year and say his parting thoughts and comments to the public as he goes. I mean, it's just working out perfect. The whole thing, the timing could not be much better. So thank you very much. Okay, so, getting our ducks in a row is part of my job, but also making sure that the other participants are ready, since it would be the first town hall for most of them. Making sure that the others are ready is also something I feel responsible to help with, to make sure that's done. So I've communicated with two groups, so to speak, the first being one, that would be Sam. And so I provided Sam with a list of suggested topics for her presentation, to where the way I see it is Sam can talk about the facts, the nuts and bolts of, let's see what I have there, the water master history, the water, basically where it's a function of the judgment, the water master structure, explain how the board and staff work, the organizational responsibilities, what that group is responsible to accomplish, both long-term and short-term, the finances. And I included the cost overrun question because that showed up in, I forget the name of the lady who submitted a series of questions to the Water Master Board on the last Water Master Board packet. Anyway, those of you that know her, I forget her name, but not that important, but there we go. Thank you, Diane. So that was one of her questions. Hey, what about the cost overruns? So I think it's a good opportunity for Sam to address that. Metering and water consumption would be another great topic. And then the goals for the upcoming year. So that would be, I think, Prop 68 for them. And then we have heard a couple times from Water Master staff that they're planning, I think that was the term they used, was an open house for Water Master only related topic. So I think this would be a great opportunity for Sam to say as much as she can about that upcoming event. Probably not a time and a date and a location yet, but at least, hey, stay tuned because the Water Master will be holding something, blah, 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 blah. And she can explain what her intentions are with that. And then what I added on that one paragraph on the bottom is, I think one of the, at kind of the core of the Water Master was, and a very interesting question that was also part of that set of questions that was in the last Water Master board packet was basically, hey, what has been the impact of the judgment on the basin, and is it working? And is the basin better off? I think might have been the words that were used by having the judgment in place. So I think those type of judgment calls and maybe even political statements are best left for the directors. And so the you'll see that later when we talk about the communications I've had with the Water Master directors that are planning to participate. But I think one fact that has even surprised, I think, all of us is the amount of water that's being pumped. With all the meters in, I think we were down to, the basin was down to 13,500 or something like that for the actual pumping last year, which, when we were back in the GSP days, I think the high number was, I kind of remember 24,600 acre feet as being the upper estimate for pumping, of which agriculture was almost 20,000 acre feet of that. So, so I think the fact that actual pumping is significantly less than what we initially estimated, and that's one huge benefit is we actually know now, to where the vast majority of ag pumpers were unmetered in the past. So I think just from the personal perspective, I think one fact that has shown up and one benefit from having the judgment in place is, boy, and it eventually would have happened as part of the GSP, but I think with the judgment it happened sooner. And obviously the judgment goes much, much further than the GSP would have. So so I just have one suggestion to Sam that one fact about the benefits of the judgment does spill into number 5 above, but I think the overall kind of philosophical discussion about has the judgment benefited the basin, I think I'm kind of interested to hear what each one of the directors would say about that based on their own personal opinions. So, and I'll talk about that next. My next section here is the communications I've had with the Water Master directors that are planning to participate. But any questions, comments? The good news is I have another week to suggest anything additional for Sam. So if anyone else has any ideas, if they have popped into your brain, great, let me know. If they pop up later, let me know also, and I can pass that on to Sam. Diane.
So it's occurring to me for this paragraph with the directors, I think that should also include the BWD directors, since we're able to talk. And yeah, just be sure it's not just the Water Master directors in this particular topic, because all of us in effect are part of, Dave is our representative, but he's representing all of us. And I think we should be able to, to be part of this discussion. What do other directors?
I don't know. It seems like if we did a around the room of what everyone thought the benefits were, that might eat up the vast majority of the time. But yeah, I'll be quiet. What do the other directors think?
And I'm not necessarily talking about that, Jeff. I'm just talking about being able to jump in and, maybe add to something or give our own take on something that was said by, maybe I'd like to comment on something that the agricultural representative talks about, for example, briefly.
Okay. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, Dan, because yeah, that kind of does fall into the, are there any comments from the public or the other directors like we do with each item? I don't know if that applies here with each discussion item, but I think you're right. There needs to be an opportunity for that. But like, I don't want to repeat myself, but I also don't want to sidetrack the whole discussion. And I guess that's the beauty of Kathy. Kathy can run the meeting, and if the discussion does go on too long, or we go down the proverbial rabbit hole on something, Kathy can bring it back and keep us on schedule. So
Great.
let me think about how I do that. And maybe it's just overall about the water master in general and not on every one of these topics, Diane, because maybe I'm getting my brain's spinning a little bit about, oh my gosh, if we allow comments upon comments for everything, that would really create a bog. So maybe it's an overall comment near the end. So since you're on the committee, Diane, it's what, you and Kathy and I, let's continue to talk about that between now and the meeting, and definitely get something figured out here later today. How about that? Cool.
Yes, I wasn't talking about all 6 of these items. I really was just thinking about this one that's not numbered at the end. Like, how do we feel like it's going?
Yeah, and it's so important. I agree. And yeah. Okay, cool. So that's good. Can we go down to the next section, or maybe it's on the screen already and I just haven't scrolled down that far?
Madam Vice President, can I just interject one small thing?
Please.
Oh, thank you. So Jeff, maybe you've already done this, but one thing you might want to do is talk to Sam about whether this meeting also needs to be duly agendized as a Water Master Board meeting. The Brown Act is a little interesting on that, as you know.
It's done. It is.
It is. Okay,
It's
just
going to
checking.
be.
Okay, thank you.
Been a lot of,
Jeff, do you want me to pause and ask for public comment before you switch to the next page?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yes, thank you.
I don't know if anybody in the public wants to comment so far on what you've heard. Hearing none, back to you, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next group I communicated with was the Water Master Directors. And I, in a very nice way, submitted a list of suggested topics. And are they there? Can you go to the next page, Esma? Oh, thank you. Okay, so basically, I didn't copy the introductory paragraph, and I should have. I apologize, but I basically did the, hey, thank you for agreeing to participate in the Water Master Board meeting. I think maybe I had that in the last packet, didn't I? So here I just cut and pasted the one change and kind of further clarification that I literally sent to the Water Master Board members this morning, and it really goes directly to the issue we're talking about. And in the initial list of suggested topics for the Water Master Board members, I did not have it as specific and direct as I felt it should be. And I initially had, what are the major accomplishments do you feel of the Water Master so far? And I think I want to kind of nail that down a little further and literally bring out what's the judgment of success and does it benefit the basin answer and response. So I did send this specifically to each one of the 4 Water Master directors who are planning to speak. One of them sent back an excellent email, Jim Bennett, saying he totally gets it and he'll be ready to respond. So those are that's the communication I've had with the Water Master Board members. And I do remember we did talk about this at our last board meeting about their intro and personal history and the constituents and all that. So I just wanted to share the yellow highlighted portion that I'm kind of driving home I'm really interested to see what the answers are in terms of the overall success of the judgment. So that was one addition I made to the suggested topics for the Water Master Board members who are presenting. And as I mentioned, I will continue on with literally putting together the PowerPoint for the BWD side and starting to share that with everybody later today / tonight, and maybe even spilling over into tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Directors, any comments? Silence. I have one I remember we talked about last time that Kathy's going to introduce, I assume it's still there, the difference between the Water Master and BWD, and then perhaps remind people again at the end if she feels the need. I think that's important because we're deep into it and we get it, but to the average guy on the street, it's a mess. So I think that Kathy setting that up, like we talked about last time, that needs to stay in her part.
Got it. I'll make sure
Any
it's there.
public comments on this overall town hall prep? Diane, I see something.
I thought of a question. Is there anything in the issue of the sun that's coming out this Thursday, Jeff?
Excellent question. Yes, there is.
Great.
Yep.
And we can talk today about other ways of publicizing it, right?
Yes.
And I see Kathy
Oh, and
Milky
yeah, as mentioned,
unmuted.
it'll be in person and virtual. As of right now, Jim Bennett was initially a yes, he would be here in person, but that's transitioned into a no, he'll be calling in. I think Shannon has some family-related issues, health-related. I do believe that he might be here, he might not. He doesn't know for sure yet. Dave will be here, obviously. Then Martha, I think she will be here. And then I'm not sure how many of the directors. How about that? How many of the directors here are planning on attending in person? It'd be good for me to know that. Paul's a yes. I mean, Dave's a yes.
Probably.
Paul, Tammy, and Diane. Everybody. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Vice President
Kathy,
Baker. Yeah,
yes.
thank you. I just saw on the screen this highlighted yellow question about, is the judgment a success and has the basin benefited from it? I guess I just wanted to say to this group of people, the BWD board and the public here, that the judgment, as a reminder, settled all water rights in the valley and complies with SGMA, and was one of the first in its kind to do this post SGMA in the state of California, and is now being used as a model going forward. And it was the BWD who initiated this friendly lawsuit, and so that the BWD has been an integral part to the stipulation and to the adjudication. And I imagined that Dave will say that, but I just wanted to remind everybody here that the judgment is relevant to the water master, but it's also particularly relevant to the BWD, as you've been an integral part of it and have helped us achieve what I would say is certainly a success in the basin.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Yeah.
Have you gotten the feedback you're looking for on this, Jeff?
Yep. Thank you very much. And Diane,
Okay.
I obviously Kathy's busy today, so why don't you and I continue to communicate about wrapping up some of these agenda-related items. Cool. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 2D, Borrego Springs Sub-Basin Water Master Board Verbal Report. Dave Duncan, are you going to kick this off?
Yeah, don't have much to report. We do have a meeting on Thursday at 4:30. You, of course, are all welcome to attend. I would like to add one thing, though, that Jeff said that there was no date or location for the Water Master Open House. That has been established. It will be December the 8th at the library in the community room. There will be an open house between 2 and 4, and the regular meeting will commence at 4:30.
Thank you, Dave.
So, could I ask Dave a quick question about that?
Yes.
For the open house, will that be a sort of a hanging around and chatting format? Like if people want to ask somebody a specific question, or more presentation?
No, it will be an open house just to answer questions that folks might have in the community about the Water Master and its role. So pretty informal.
Okay, thanks.
Trey, I see your name on the agenda and that you're here. Do you have an update as part of this section?
Good morning, Tammy. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Apologize, I'm having some technical challenges with the camera. It doesn't seem to be turning on. Yeah, brief update for you all. We had our TAC meeting last week discussed several items, including the technical support services agreement for the new, what is now a clustered monitoring well on the Bernan property. I'm happy to report that we have moved forward with plans and specifications for the property owner and the water master and DWR to review. We're expecting to have draft plans and specifications completed within the next week. So after a very long time, we're finally moving forward with this project. So it's very exciting as a hydrogeologist to actually get some ink to the paper for the plans and specifications. Next is the technical memorandum that the water master staff has prepared for both the water level and water quality data gaps analysis. We had a very good discussion at the TAC meeting on that technically. It was really great to see, I think, a lot of consensus on the recommendations on how that data gaps analysis can be improved, including more robust analysis of historical data and also a prioritization of data gaps to really focus on the beneficial uses and users in the basin, including the potable groundwater production by the Borrego Water District and also domestic pumpers in the basin. So there's going to be some more work on that. On behalf of the Borrego Water District, we will be submitting a comment letter on the TM, which is due on November 16th, 2022. So that includes just some specific comments on the letter and also recommendations for additional work to get to the adoption of the water quality monitoring plan, which is actually due to the court in April. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Directors, any questions? Diane, is that you wanting to chime in?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm thinking, no, not now. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone in the public want to ask a question or have a comment? All right, I did listen in on this meeting, and I was also happy to hear that there was a productive and cordial and interested in sort of the science kind of attitude that the members of the TAC took as part of going through this. And then there was, I observed that the members of the TAC felt like there should be more money allocated to resolving some of the outstanding questions and problems that were discovered in the hydrological model, and were, I guess, wanted a better hydrological model. So and it really came down to prioritizing what could be done with the money available. So I also agree with Trey. It was a constructive conversation. People worked together well. It will be interesting to see what West Yost comes up with, given sort of time and money constraints, both for the water level and water quality plans, as well as the hydrological model update. All right, thank you. Yeah, Trey?
And there's just one more thing, Tammy. Last night, the water master did release in their agenda package a draft budget for the Borrego Valley hydraulic model that will be discussed at the next water master meeting. So we'll give you an update after the water master meeting on next steps with the Borrego Valley hydrologic model.
Okay. And may I add one detail? I just dug out my notes that Jim Bennett said very clearly a couple of times that that we really need to recalibrate the model. That had been, you know, not decided so clearly. And there wasn't disagreement. Trey, you agreed strongly and recommended it, right?
Yes, and I think that's still a process challenge that I'm having at the TAC level is that there was kind of just general verbal consensus, but there wasn't any straw poll or really any sort of formal recommendation to the water master. We all seem to suggest that we're in agreement, but we might want to review some additional information. And that's where I just have some concerns on process. And when it goes back to the water master, I think sometimes it gets a little more political, and sometimes the consensus can change, as we've seen in the past. So I did ask during the meeting for a straw poll. I didn't get one in terms of some of the direction to the water master board, but I think that's something for maybe the water master board members to discuss in the future, how formal the recommendation should be from the TAC to the water master board. Thank you.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Trey. Am I right in as I look back at the TAC meetings, am I right in thinking that in effect it's been what Andy has put into the minutes that he then discusses with the water master? That's the point at which the TAC recommendation has become clear in the past, and what you're saying is that it should become clear in the course of meeting together, right?
I think that should be the case. I mean, I think that maybe, if we need the time to prepare a formal recommendation in writing at the end of a TAC meeting for everyone to review, that it should come back to the TAC, and there should, I think, just for the sake of making sure we're on the same page, that that it comes back for kind of it can be a verbal up or down vote. But I've just seen several times in the past where it seems like we have consensus at the TAC meeting, and then it gets to the water master board, and then people are changing their minds on the spot. And I just don't think that's the best process. So it's just something to maybe consider moving forward.
Do you mean you've seen TAC members change their mind at the water master board? Or that the water master people are speaking with a different mind than their representative had spoken at the TAC?
I think this happened with the review of the de minimis well permit, where we seem to be leaning in one direction potentially, and all of a sudden at the water master board meeting, TAC members were clarifying their votes, which were not necessarily clear at the TAC level. So I just think it behooves us to have a more formal process where it's clear what the recommendation of the TAC is going to the water master board. So there's not a whole bunch of back and forth afterwards.
Right, and if it's not clear, then that gets documented. I mean, the aim is for consensus, but if there isn't consensus, that should be noted. It should all be more clearly done than it has been. More explicit, I guess, is, yeah. I think these process questions are really important.
So Dave,
Thank you.
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit and see if you have an opinion about what you're hearing, and sort of in your role as representing BWD on the board, do you have any kind of comments so far about sort of the shifting of the TAC, perhaps opinions between the TAC meetings and when they're actually presented to the water master and process things? Do you have any sort of thoughts or comments you could add?
Well, I can only support Trey in what he said. He's absolutely right. There were TAC members who waffled on their position, left a lot of uncertainty in terms of a clear recommendation from the TAC, and it was very disappointing to have heard people say one thing at the TAC meeting and then backpedal at the water master meeting. And I think Trey is right. There needs to be kind of a formal process created when there's a recommendation given. It certainly added to a lot of uncertainty and certainly played into the hands that did not want to have the well owner develop an annular seal. So his description of it is right on.
Do you see a plan for a process improvement at the water master, or is there
Well,
action here?
I see that there's room for several process um, corrections within the water master's organization. This is only but one. I think it's up to the TAC to discuss how their recommendation is going to be put forward as a group. I mean, that's up to them, not up to the water master board.
So am I hearing that you're suggesting that the responsibility would fall on Andy to crispen up the process? I'm trying to understand how this works.
Well, I think it's, it's incumbent upon the entire TAC to come to some agreement, some consensus about how its recommendations are going to be fronted to the water master board. I think it's the entire group needs to have this discussion. Andy can certainly agendize that discussion and lead that discussion, but it's not up to him individually. It's certainly up to the entire committee.
I guess I'm fishing for, do you feel it's appropriate that the water master board assign the responsibility to Andy to lead this process improvement?
Well, the water master board certainly approves a TAC agenda. So from that perspective, yes, we could certainly empower Andy to pursue that.
Okay.
It seems like there's maybe the water master board itself needs to crispen up its process. I like your word, Tammy, about accepting about how it responds to TAC recommendations. I'm pretty sure I remember correctly that it's clear in the judgment that the TAC recommendations are just recommendations, just advisory. But
Yes.
I would like it, I feel like it would be good just as part of the record for if the water master representative, a board representative is not agreeing with what that own representative group's consultant had recommended at the TAC, I think that should probably be clear. I know this is all really political, but dancing around this stuff doesn't make it any less political. It just makes it even murkier.
Well, it
Madam
is.
Vice
I mean,
President, I'm sorry.
no,
Yes.
go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to share two things from the judgment, just so folks are aware, and I know you are, but just as a reminder. Number one is that the way the judgment works is the TAC is supposed to act by consensus, but if consensus cannot be achieved, then the TAC is supposed to present a report to the Water Master Board explaining in writing the differences of opinion. So I think Andy's been doing that on some issues, but I don't know if that happens on all issues, at least on all issues where there's a split of opinion. So that's something to think about. There's also a requirement in the judgment, and again, I think this might be happening, but at least twice a year, the members of the TAC committee are supposed to meet with the Water Master Board, right? That not just sort of show up and express their opinions at a regular water master board meeting. They're supposed to meet together. And I think when the judgment was adopted, I think it was hopeful that people could meet in person. But either way, it says in the judgment that at least twice a year, the TAC and the water master board is supposed to meet together. And I can't quite tell whether I know when I attend water master board meetings, there are TAC members on there, but I don't know whether that constitutes one of the at least twice a year official meetings that the judgment requires. So just thought I'd share that. Thanks.
Dave, you were about to say something till Steve jumped in?
Yeah, well, just, in fact, the TAC does make a recommendation. The Water Master Board is not bound by that recommendation. It is, as the word describes, a recommendation, and that there's no obligation to accept it as fact. And each individual board member is certainly open to raising questions or to agree or to not agree with the recommendation. That's how it functions. It is, in fact, kind of a democratic process, and we accept their recommendation as a recommendation and go from there.
And if I may, I think the one little tidbit I heard is Trey couldn't even get a recommendation out of him. That Trey, them being the TAC, Trey even asked for a straw poll, and committee members said, or Andy or somebody said no. So it sounds like that oftentimes there isn't even a quote unquote recommendation made. So that allows each member to be a little wishy-washier and maybe change their opinion, maybe, I don't know, between the TAC and the board meeting, because they're not making an official position. They weren't asked for an official stance or even a straw poll. But so Dave, I would like to, I won't say force, but strongly suggest that a recommendation does come out of the TAC. I mean, I forget what the exact topic was, but was it the budget for the hydrologic model update? Which
That's
seems like
correct.
kind of a very important issue, and solely right within the tax wheelhouse. I wouldn't know what the right number is. With all due respect, Dave wouldn't know what that right number is, or any any water master board member. This is purely technical, and to get no recommendation, and for Trey to even ask for a straw poll and get shot down, it just seems like that could be a missing piece. That you're not getting the recommendation. We didn't get a recommendation out of the de minimis. It was wishy-washy. It wasn't solid. So Dave, I think you're right. But I think we need to, the district needs to, I'll say demand, that's a strong word, but to make sure that on major issues, there really is a recommendation with positions given. And if there is dissent, and thank you very much, Steve, for reminding all of us what the requirements are. And I would say having your TAC representative attend a water master board meeting to at will either respond to issues or not that pop up on the agenda does not constitute the TAC meeting with the water master. To me, that's a more formal function. It's on the agenda. It's the TAC update to the water master. I don't know how you would describe it, but to me, the only TAC in specific.
Oh, I think we lost Jeff. He seems
Okay.
frozen.
Everybody lost him. Okay.
Right. I have a slightly different view on this, that I think the shortcoming of the de minimis well TAC perspective is that Andy did try to present that there was not agreement on the TAC about what to do with the de minimis well, and he did make a presentation of these members voted this way, these members voted that way, and the problem was that in the water master meeting, the members changed their positions. So Andy tried but did not succeed in representing the opinions of the TAC members. And I think that's a process improvement that he needs to make.
Well, I
don't
get a
know
little
whether that's
frustrated with, with regard to, the de minimis well discussion with the TAC. That did not occur at a meeting. Trey's technical memo was circulated via email, and I think that in terms of a process issue, I think is really important. That when you have things like that they need to discuss. It's hard to discuss something via email, and I think that led to the confusion and the ad hoc nature of the individual TAC members' responses at the water master meeting. I don't even know if everybody on the TAC even read Trey's memo. I mean, there's no guarantee that everyone even saw it. So things like that, was a failure of the process in terms of being able to convene the TAC members, get them to review and discuss a technical memo in, face to face. I think that that's critical, and that did not happen.
Yes, good. Thank you, Dave. Good point.
From what I heard, I think the process failure at that point was that the vote was rushed at that meeting. There should have been more time allowed, you know, for what Dave just said, for what you just said, to allow more discussion with the TAC. There didn't need to be a vote right at that meeting. From the several reports I've gotten from other people, I sure wish it had been recorded so I could have listened to it, but.
Yes, and you two are correct, Diane. Those were 2 of the 4 points we made in our letter to the water master about our discomfort with how that whole process went. The rush to judgment was one.
Great.
Okay, so so we're on the agenda topic of water master and future items. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Let me first say to the public, because the directors have been talking quite a bit. Anybody on the public want to comment here? Seeing no little things on mute. Directors, have I given you the opportunity to say what you want to say? Yes, I see nods. Okay, so we are going to conclude this one. There's no vote needed. And we now move to board committee reports if needed. Standing committees, are there any, raise your hand if you're a committee member and you have something that you want to report. Hands in pockets. Okay, we move to staff reports. And Jeff Poole, we start off with you.
Thank you very much. Let me refresh my memory on what I had on there. I had the Prop 68. What else was there? Oh, Prop 68 grant update. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we received the good news from Chris Martinez that DWR Legal has given its blessing on what looks like will become the final version of the DWR BWD agreement. And that should be here by the end of business today, because last week he said it would be here on Monday or Tuesday of next week, which is yesterday and today. So I expect the final version to arrive. I'll shoot it to Steve immediately, and he'll start that review that I mentioned before. And then BWD will be has sent a letter to the applicant for the de minimis well, suggesting that we meet and talk about possible solutions to protect water quality for both the well owner as well as the district. And so when I hear a response, I will let everyone know what that response is. And those are my 2 items, Madam Vice President.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this meeting, and we have closed session next. It's 10:03. Should we do 7 minutes, 10:10?
Sounds good.
Madam President, Vice President, can we do a little longer, just because we have other, some BB&K reps going to help us? 10:15 would be awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, closed session will pick up at 10:15. See you there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.